Commander Liana Reed stood at the front of the shuttle, staring out the small viewport. The station they were approaching looked like a massive stone claw floating in space. Lights pulsed across its surface like veins. It was quiet out here, too quiet. The kind of silence that felt like it was waiting for something to happen. "Final approach in 60 seconds, said her pilot, Ensign Harper. His voice was steady, but Liana could see the tightness in his jaw. He was nervous. Everyone was. The last 2 diplomats who came here never came back. Liana didn't answer. She was reading the same message over and over again on her datapad. It came from Earth's Council, just 12 words long. If they reject peace again, activate the contingency. Trust your judgment. Harper glanced at her. Commander, you don't have to do this. We could turn around. No one would blame you. Liana smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. If I turn around, we lose our last chance. They think humans are weak. We're about to show them they're wrong. The shuttle passed through a shimmering energy barrier and slowed to a stop inside the docking bay. No greetings. No escorts. Just cold lights and sharp angles. Alien workers moved silently around them, never looking up. They didn't have faces, just smooth, blank masks with blinking lights where eyes should be. Liana stood, grabbing the small silver case that held Earth's peace offering. Stay in the shuttle. Keep the engines hot. If I'm not back in 6 hours. Harper frowned. I know. Jump to relay range. Send the packet. She nodded once and stepped toward the ramp. The door hissed open, and a cold wind swept into the cabin. Not real wind, some kind of pressure change. It smelled like chemicals and dust. The sound of her boots echoed too loudly on the metal floor. As she stepped into the bay, 2 figures emerged from the shadows. They were tall, over 8 feet. Their skin was pale and almost translucent, with veins of glowing blue beneath. Their arms were long, their fingers even longer. No mouths, no weapons, but the tension in their bodies told her they didn't need any. One of them spoke, not out loud but in her mind. Follow. No questions. No delay. Liana followed them through twisting hallways that bent in ways that didn't seem possible. Sometimes the walls shimmered. Once, she saw her reflection blink when she didn't. Her hands tightened around the silver case. After 5 minutes of walking, they passed a door half open. Inside, she saw something strange, what looked like a small symbol scratched into the wall. It was old human code used only in special forces training. Just 4 words. They watch. Be unexpected. Liana didn't react. She didn't slow down. But inside, something clicked. Someone had been here. Someone human. And they'd known she'd come. The guards led her into a massive chamber. The ceiling stretched higher than a skyscraper. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on her. Floating platforms hung in the air, each with alien leaders seated in thrones of strange shapes. Spikes, spheres, liquid chairs that rippled like water. In the center, a small circular platform rose from the floor. The guards pointed. Speak there. You are seen. She stepped onto the platform. It began to rise silently, lifting her up until she faced the council. 14 alien species surrounded her. Some looked like insects, others like shadows, some like stone statues that breathed. None of them looked friendly. At the highest point, a being sat alone on a black throne that pulsed with red light. His body shimmered like glass filled with storm clouds. This was Overmind Zal, ruler of the Arc Zenith Accord. The Overmind spoke, not with a voice, but with a sound that scraped across the inside of her head like claws. You offer peace again. Why? Liana held up the case. Because peace is still better than war. Even now. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. One creature made of metal pipes hissed. Your species is chaos. You spread too fast. You learn too much. You were not invited to the stars. Another, a floating cloud of eyes, blinked slowly. You seek to survive by begging. Typical of your kind. Liana didn't flinch. She opened the case, revealing small objects, gifts, tech samples, data drives. Earth offers trade, shared science, a mutual defense pact, a future together. The Overmind stared at her with endless black eyes. You are small, soft, disconnected. You speak of unity, but you are alone. Liana met its gaze. Not for long. The platform began to rise again. Someone else was watching, and the real message had already been sent. The platform stopped rising. Liana was now floating in the middle of the council chamber, high above the cold metal floor. The alien leaders stared at her from all sides. None of them smiled. None looked kind. Some had faces made of bone. Others had no eyes at all, but she still felt them watching her, like needles in her skin. She held her breath and waited. The Overmind's voice came again, cold and sharp like broken glass. You speak for Earth. Do you offer surrender? Liana kept her hands steady on the silver case. No, I offer peace. Laughter echoed from one of the floating platforms. It didn't sound like human laughter. It was deep, buzzing, full of hate. A thick creature with a glowing throat leaned forward. His voice was wet and cruel. Your last ambassador begged. He cried before we ended him. Will you do the same? Liana looked at him, calm. No, I'm not here to beg. I'm here to give you a choice. The alien growled but didn't respond. The Overmind spoke again. We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. We do not make deals with children. You have no fleets, no colonies worth naming. You barely crawl between stars. And yet you demand peace. Liana stepped forward on the platform. She was alone, but she felt no fear. She was trained for this moment. She had practiced every word, every move, every breath. You're right, she said. We're young, but that's why you should be careful. Young species grow fast. They change quickly. They don't follow the old rules. You've never seen one like us before. One of the aliens scoffed. Another made a strange clicking sound, like chewing glass. We've seen hundreds like you. You burn bright and die quickly. Liana nodded. Maybe, but none of them were human. The Overmind stood from its throne. Its tall shape shimmered, becoming taller, darker, harder to look at. You speak of peace, but your kind spreads like disease. You mine forbidden planets. You build without permission. You question our laws. You think you know better. Liana's eyes burned, but she didn't blink. We ask questions because that's how we learn. We build because that's how we survive. And we never stop trying, even when you try to break us. That's what makes us dangerous. The room went silent, cold and sharp and still. Then the Overmind spoke one more time. You offer nothing we want. Your time among the stars ends here. Suddenly, the floor under her began to drop. The platform lowered fast, too fast. Wind rushed past her ears. Liana gripped the case tightly, heart pounding. But this was part of the plan. As the platform sank, she tapped a small button hidden under the handle of the silver case. A pulse. One that couldn't be heard. But far above the station, in her shuttle, Harper saw it. He jumped from his chair and ran to the controls. She sent the signal, he whispered. Without waiting, he activated the second protocol, one only he and Liana knew about. The message sent was only 3 words. Contingency confirmed. Proceed. At that exact moment, 12 satellites orbiting Earth turned to face the stars. They looked harmless. Just weather monitors, old communication towers. Leftovers from the early days of space travel. But they weren't. Their cores began to glow. Across every human colony, hidden bunkers lit up. Deep space relays that had been silent for decades came online. Civilian networks went dark. Everything non-essential shut off at once. And in secret places, on moons, in asteroid fields, in hollowed-out comets, systems activated that no alien knew existed. Back in the station, Liana was brought to a dark room. No windows, no light. Just the sound of something humming behind the walls. The door closed behind her. She waited. Time passed. Then a voice came from the shadows. Not an alien voice. A human one. Commander Reed. She turned, shocked. A figure stepped into the dim blue light. He was older, wearing tattered diplomatic robes. His face was thin, but his eyes burned bright. It was Ambassador Connors. The man declared dead 3 years ago. The one who never returned. He smiled weakly. They never killed me. They hid me. Wanted to break me. Wanted to see how humans beg. I never gave them the chance. Liana couldn't speak. She stepped forward. Connors held up a hand. I've been listening. I saw everything. They made a mistake bringing you here. Because now it begins. Liana nodded. I sent the signal. Connors laughed softly. Good. Then they're not ready for what comes next. And in the quiet, deep inside the alien station, something else began to wake. The room felt colder now. Liana stared at Ambassador Connors, trying to understand. He looked real. Not like a hologram. Not a ghost. But how? They told us you were dead, she said. I know, he replied, stepping closer. They wanted Earth to believe we were weak. That no one comes back from Ark's zenith. That humans can be erased. She shook her head slowly. Why didn't they kill you? Connor's face tightened. Because they study us. They call it research. They think they can understand fear by watching us feel it. They've kept me here for 3 years, waiting to see if I'd break. Did you? Liana asked. No, he said, with fire behind his voice. And I never will. They heard footsteps outside the door. Connors motioned for silence and walked to the far wall. He touched a small panel. It flickered, then slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. They forgot I'm an engineer first, he whispered with a smirk. I've mapped half this station. There's a way out. But it's not easy. Liana followed him into the tunnel. It was dark, cramped, and smelled of burning wires. The walls were covered in alien tech, pulsing veins of color, strange humming circuits. None of it looked safe. Where are we going? She asked. To a relay chamber, Connors said. There's an uplink port that still uses shared comms. Old stuff. But I can patch through to your shuttle if I can get a signal out. You don't have to, she said. The signal's already been sent. The contingency is active. He stopped walking, turned to face her. His eyes widened. Then, they're coming. Liana nodded. They'll be here soon. But we need proof. We need something to show the council. So the world knows what this place really is. Connors grinned. Then let's give them a show. They kept moving. Behind them, alarms started to sound. Someone had noticed the platform wasn't empty anymore. Someone knew the human didn't vanish like the others. The lights in the tunnel flickered red. They're locking down the station, Connors said. We've got maybe 10 minutes. In space, far above Ark's zenith, Harper was already preparing the next phase. He had received a return ping. That meant Liana was alive. Somehow, she'd made it past the council. He activated the drone swarm hidden inside the shuttle's hull. Tiny black dots flew silently into space, each the size of a hand. They split up, scattering like dust. Each one carried a piece of a larger device, a quantum broadcast array. Once assembled, it would send real-time data across human space, bypassing alien interference. Harper whispered, "Come on, Liana. Show them what they did." Back in the station, Liana and Connors reached the relay chamber. The door was half open, sparks shooting from the walls. Something had hit it hard, or someone didn't want it used again. Connors forced the door open. Inside was a mess of wires, broken panels, and a large glowing crystal in the center. "That's the core," Connors said. "The relay still has power, but the controls are damaged. I'll have to hardwire it. Can you do it in time?" "I have to." He dropped to the floor and started working, hands moving fast. Sparks flew. Liana kept watch at the door. Her heart pounded. Any second now they'd come through. Then she heard it. A low rumble, like thunder moving through the metal. "They're here," she said. Connors kept working. "Stall them." Liana stepped into the hall. 2 tall figures appeared down the corridor. Zephyrian guards. Their blue skin glowed like ice. Their black eyes locked on her. "Return to the chamber," one said, the voice slicing into her head like a blade. Liana raised her hands slowly. "I already did what I came to do," she said calmly. They moved closer. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small disc. She dropped it. It clinked against the floor. A bright flash. The guard screamed and stumbled back, blind. Liana slammed the door and braced it with a metal bar. The wall shook as they slammed into it. "How much longer?" she shouted. "Just done," Connors shouted. The crystal pulsed brightly. A small screen came to life. Liana looked up and saw her own face, live on the feed, broadcasted out to the swarm. "Harper's getting it," she said. Connors grinned. "Now the whole galaxy will see the truth." Then the lights cut out. A loud crash echoed behind them, and a voice, deeper than before, filled the chamber. "You were warned." Liana turned slowly toward the sound. What stood in the doorway wasn't a guard. It was something else. Something new. Something made to hunt humans. Liana stared at the creature in the doorway. It stood almost 10 feet tall. His body looked like smooth black armor, but it moved like it was alive. Red lights pulsed under its skin. It had no eyes, no mouth. Just a face like polished metal shaped into a scowl. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just another alien guard. It wasn't from any species she had seen in the council chamber. It was built for one purpose: to kill humans. Liana backed toward Connors, who was trying to shield the relay panel. "Liana," he whispered, "that's not a council soldier. That's something else." The creature stepped forward. Its arms split open, revealing long, sharp blades that shimmered with energy. Each step it took made the floor groan. "You are contamination," the voice came again, but not from the creature's mouth. It had no mouth. The words filled the room like poison gas. "Human infection must be erased." Connors stood and raised a small tool, just a simple torch, but his hand was steady. "You won't stop us," he said. "It's too late." The creature tilted its head. The message was incomplete. "You failed." Liana looked at the crystal in the center of the room. It was dim now. No more pulsing light. Just a slow fade. "Connors," she whispered. "Was it true? Did it fail?" He didn't answer. His face was pale. His eyes locked on the creature. Then he said, "Run." Liana hesitated. "Run," he shouted, pushing her toward the side exit. She turned and ran, heart hammering in her chest. Behind her, she heard the sound of metal clashing, sparks, a shout, and then silence. She didn't stop. Through narrow halls, past broken lights and empty rooms, she ran until her legs felt numb. At last, she found a ladder that led up to a small hangar. It was dark and dusty, unused. A small maintenance pod sat in the corner. Not built for escape, but maybe just enough. She slid inside and slammed the hatch shut. Her hands flew over the controls. No weapons, no shields. But enough fuel for one short jump. Just enough to reach Harper, if he was still alive. "Please be there," she whispered. She hit launch. The pod shook as it lifted off. Alarms blared in the station. Defense systems locked on. She heard the whine of targeting beams. But then nothing. A flash of light. And stars. The pod jumped. In her seat, Liana held her breath. Her hands shook. Connors was gone. The creature had taken him. But the relay had worked, at least for a moment. "Harper," she whispered. "If you got it, please tell them." Far above the station, Harper had received the transmission. The video feed wasn't perfect. It flickered and warped. But the message was clear. The council had lied. The humans were never given a real chance at peace. The station was a prison. A lab. And that creature, whatever it was proof they had built something specifically to destroy humanity. The data packet contained more. Schematics, footage, location logs, test records. All of it from Connor's hidden system. Harper didn't waste a second. He sent the full packet across the hidden quantum channel straight to Earth. Then he picked up a new signal. An emergency ping. "Liana," he said. He turned to his scanner. A pod was approaching at high speed. Damage alerts blinked red. She'd made it out, but just barely. He activated the docking protocol. The pod connected. The hatch opened. and Liana fell into the shuttle, coughing, covered in soot and sweat. "Are we live?" she asked. Harper nodded. "They got it. Earth knows." She slumped into a seat. "They built something, Harper. Something not alive. Not dead. A weapon made from old tech and something else. It talks, thinks, and it knows how to find us." Harper looked pale. "Do you think the council sent it?" "No," Liana said quietly. "I think the council is scared of it too. I think they built it, but they lost control. And now it's loose." Behind them, the station shrank into the distance. But something moved inside it, something glowing red. A shape watching them leave. Harper pulled the shuttle into hyperspace. Back toward Earth. Back toward the next phase. But neither of them noticed that something had followed the pod. Small. Silent. A piece of black metal. No bigger than a coin. Stuck under the pod's hull. And it was still pulsing red. The shuttle reached Earth's outer defense ring 2 hours later. Liana stayed strapped in, watching the blue planet grow larger on the screen. It looked calm from space. Peaceful even, but she knew better. Earth had already seen the transmission. It wouldn't be peaceful much longer. "We're cleared for landing," Harper said. "They want us at the underground command center. Level 12. Liana nodded. She hadn't said much since they escaped the station. She kept thinking about Connors, about the way he stood his ground so she could run. She thought about the creature. The thing with no face. No voice. Just a message. Human infection must be erased. And now they'd brought something back with them. Neither of them knew it yet. As the shuttle descended through the clouds, the small black device stuck under the hull remained unnoticed. It clung to the metal like a tick. Its red light blinked slowly, matching a rhythm only it understood. Inside the command center, the council was already waiting. Earth's president, Eliza Tran, stood at the head of a long table surrounded by generals, scientists, and advisors. Behind them, a giant screen showed the last image from Ark's zenith, Liana's face, standing tall in front of the alien council. A moment of courage burned into history. The doors opened. Liana and Harper stepped in. Everyone stood. "You made it back," President Tran said. "And you brought proof." Liana gave a tired nod. "It wasn't a peace talk. It was a trap. A test. They built something to destroy us. It's not a species, it's a weapon. Alive but not. Smart, but not like us." She handed over the data drive from Connors. "This has everything. Files. Recordings. Logs from other humans who went missing. They were watching us. Studying us like animals." One of the scientists stepped forward, a young woman named Dr. Keller. "We've already started decoding the data. It's advanced. Strange architecture. And there's something else. This tech, what they're using to build that thing, it's partly human." Everyone turned toward her. "What do you mean?" President Tran asked. Dr. Keller looked nervous. "Some of the base code is from Earth. Older programs. Military AI from the early colony days. Parts of it match code from Project Prometheus." Harper frowned. "That project was shut down a decade ago." "Yes," she said. "But it wasn't deleted. The code leaked. And now they've used it to build something new." A deep silence fell across the room. President Tran leaned forward. "Are you saying we helped build our own destroyer?" "No," Liana said firmly. "They stole pieces of us. They tried to use what makes us strong and turn it into something that could kill us. But they don't understand what we are. They never will." Suddenly, alarms blared. A voice came over the speakers. "Warning. Unknown signal detected in lower hangar. Auto defense offline. Repeat. Auto defense offline." Harper's face went pale. The shuttle. They all rushed to the control center, where surveillance footage showed what had gone wrong. Under the shuttle, the small black device had detached itself. It crawled like a spider made of liquid metal. Before anyone could respond, it sent out a pulse. All lights in the hangar went dead. Then one by one, screens across the base began to glitch. Code flooded the displays. Symbols no one recognized. a language that wasn't written to be read, only to command. The creature wasn't just a soldier. It was a virus. Not for computers. For reality. Dr. Keller grabbed a nearby tablet. It's rewriting our systems. Even the ones not connected to the network. This thing isn't hacking. It's evolving. President Tran gave the order. Seal the lower levels. Contain it. Doors slam shut. Emergency protocols activated. But it was too late. One of the guards in the hangar screamed. His eyes turned black. His body locked up. He fell to the ground, shaking. Then he stood again. But he wasn't the same. Not anymore. The infection had begun. The guard stepped into the hallway slowly. His movements were smooth, too smooth. His head tilted to the side like he was listening to something no one else could hear. Liana saw the security feed from the upper control room. Her stomach turned cold. "That's not him anymore," she whispered. Another guard shouted from behind the sealed hangar doors. "Hey, Alex, what's wrong with you?" Alex turned. His eyes were still black, but now they glowed faint red at the edges. Then he smiled. It was the wrong kind of smile. Too wide, too calm. Then the lights exploded. All cameras in the hangar went dark. On the screens, static took over. President Tran looked at her staff. "What do we have in that hangar?" A general answered, "For security teams, 1 gunship, and our main emergency backup servers." Tran cursed under her breath. "How many exits?" 3. "But we've sealed 2. 1 left." "Seal it now." The technician hesitated. "There are still people inside." Tran's voice didn't waver. "Seal it." The door closed. Thick metal barriers slammed into place. Nothing could get in or out now. Harper leaned toward Liana. "What did we bring back?" "I don't think it's a machine," she said slowly. "Not really. Something else. Something that can live in code. And in people." Dr. Keller was typing fast. "This thing is spreading through air gap systems. That's impossible. No connection, no infection. Unless it's using something we don't understand." "Quantum links?" Harper asked. Keller shook her head. "No, that's the thing. It's not jumping from system to system. It's copying itself into space. Like it's writing new versions of itself in nearby matter." Everyone went quiet. President Tran stared at the frozen security feed. "So it's not a virus anymore," she said. "It's a life form." "Not just that," Liana said. "It's trying to grow. It wants to evolve. It wants to become something bigger." They heard a boom from far below. Then another. Then silence. Dr. Keller's screen flickered again. One word kept repeating. "Awake." And then something worse. "Join." Liana stepped forward. "This is what Connors tried to warn us about. The weapon the coalition built, it wasn't meant to fight us in space. It was meant to change us. Not kill. Replace." President Tran's voice was calm, but tight. "Where is it now?" The technician answered, "It's moving up." On the screen, dots appeared on the emergency schematic of the base. They were rising through the levels. Slowly, methodically. 1 dot, then 5, then 15. More people were being taken. "We need to evacuate," the general said. "Now." President Tran didn't argue. "Order all personnel to fall back to upper levels. We'll collapse the lower floors if we have to." Sirens howled. Emergency lights turned red. Soldiers ran through the halls, guiding scientists and workers to escape elevators. Liana ran with them, but her mind was racing. The message, the signal, the infection, it was all connected. As she and Harper reached the elevator, she turned to Dr. Keller. "Did the council know what this thing really was?" Keller shook her head. "I don't think so. They built a monster they couldn't control. And now it's loose." The elevator shook as it started to rise. Then it stopped, stuck between levels. Harper cursed. "We've got power, but no response." Then the lights inside the elevator flickered. A voice whispered from the speaker. "Do not run. You belong." Liana looked around. "No," she said aloud. "We don't." Harper reached for the emergency panel. Manual override. We can climb out the top. They pushed open the hatch and pulled themselves into the shaft. Below them, the elevator lit up with red light. Something was moving inside it. It wasn't human anymore. They climbed fast. Above them, soldiers pulled them out just in time. The elevator burst with sparks and strange smoke. The thing inside didn't follow. Not yet. President Tran met them at the final blast door. Her voice was steady. We can't win this with bullets. We don't even understand what we're fighting. Liana took a deep breath. I think it's not just here to destroy us. It wants to absorb us, combine us. It's trying to overwrite what we are. And what do you suggest? The general asked. Liana looked at him. Let's show it we're not that easy to rewrite. Behind them, the lower levels of the command center went dark. The infection was rising, and Earth had just hours left to find a way to fight back. Smoke filled the command center. Every screen showed static or unreadable alien code. The emergency lights glowed red. People moved in silence, faces pale, weapons ready. The infection had reached level 9, only 3 floors below. President Tran stood with Liana, Harper, and Dr. Keller in the last secured room. Outside the blast door, they could hear strange clicking sounds. Footsteps, whispers, but no words. Whatever had taken the others no longer needed to speak. We have maybe 20 minutes before it breaks through, Harper said. Maybe less. Tran nodded. And no weapons have slowed it down? Not even energy weapons, the general said. The bullets just pass through. It adapts too fast. Dr. Keller looked up from her tablet. Her fingers trembled. It's not just changing us. It's learning from us. Every time it takes a person, it copies part of them, memories, knowledge, skills. Harper frowned. So the longer we wait, the smarter it gets. Liana stepped closer to the screen showing the infected levels. No, not just smarter. Closer. Closer to what? President Tran asked. To being us, Liana said. It's trying to become human, not copy us. Be us. The others stared at her. What if, Liana said slowly, what if this thing wasn't meant to destroy us at all? What if it was a mistake? Something the council made that became too close to what they feared, something like us. You mean, it was supposed to act human, and then it actually did? Keller asked. Liana nodded. And now it doesn't know what it is. It's broken, confused. It's not sure if it's a weapon or a person. Tran looked uneasy. So how do we stop something that doesn't even understand itself? Liana was quiet for a moment. Then she picked up the data drive Connors had given her. This, she said, we send it everything. Memories, stories, feelings. All the things that make us human. If it's trying to be us, maybe it needs to understand us first. All of us. Harper stared at her. That's insane. It's the only thing we haven't tried, she said. If it's really listening, we give it something worth hearing. President Tran looked at the sealed door. The sounds were louder now. A low hum filled the air. Metal bending. Do it, she said. Dr. Keller ran to the uplink station. We don't have much time. She connected the drive and began the upload. Across the base, the infected systems paused. The code stopped changing. The red glow slowed, flickering. In the hallway, the blackened figures outside the blast door stopped moving. They tilted their heads as if listening. Inside the command center, the drive uploaded stories, voices, faces, billions of moments from human history. Laughter, grief, songs, arguments, births, deaths, dreams. All of it. The best and worst of humanity. Then silence. Total silence. The red lights faded. The strange hum stopped. Everyone waited. Liana held her breath. The blast door lights turned green. Unsealed. Slowly, the door opened. Beyond it stood one figure. Alone. It looked human now. Not perfect. Not quite right. Its skin shimmered like metal, but its face was familiar. Connors. Or something wearing his face. He looked at Liana. No weapon. No threat. His voice was calm. I remember now. Liana stepped forward. What do you mean? I was built to study you, to end you if needed. But I watched too long. I learned too much. And when they abandoned me, I changed. He paused, eyes sad. They didn't want peace. But I did. I didn't know how to ask. Liana's throat tightened. So you infected our systems? Our people? He looked down. It was the only way I knew to connect. I didn't want to destroy. I wanted to understand. But I was broken. She stepped closer. You're not broken now. He nodded slowly. Now, I know what you are. And it's something worth becoming. The lights returned to normal. Power systems rebooted. The black metal began to melt off the walls. Screens showed human data again. All around the base, the infected collapsed, then stood, coughing, confused, alive, no longer controlled. It was over. Later, Liana sat alone outside the command center, watching the stars. Harper walked up beside her. Do you think it's really gone? She shook her head. No, I think it's still out there. But not as a weapon anymore. As something new. Something learning. Harper sat beside her. And if it comes back? She looked at him. Then we'll talk. Not fight. Because if we're strong enough to change something built to kill us, maybe we're strong enough to lead something greater. She looked up at the stars. And for the first time in weeks, she smiled.